Thank you very much. And I want to thank GRTS for giving us an opportunity to appear on this Good Morning Gambia program to shed light on this story that has been making the rounds, like you rightly mentioned, for the last 24 to 48 hours surrounding the departure of the former president, Bashir al-Assad, from Syria to Russia via Abu Dhabi, Albertine Airport. Just as a background, the aircraft been mentioned is currently registered in the Gambia, and also registered in the Gambia in April of 2024. However, the other flights they referred to in 2023, at the time that aircraft was not registered to the Gambia. But as a background and within the context of aircraft registration in states, it's standard practice by International Civil Aviation Organization that every state, every one of the 193 contracting member states of International Civil Aviation Organization are required to have a state aircraft registry. And what that means is that's what every individual state uses to register, to log the registration and deregistrations of aircrafts in their country. And the state of registry and the home of operation of an aircraft are not necessarily required to be the same. In fact, common practice is the home of registry of the aircraft and their home of operation most times are not the same.
And why that?
Well, aircrafts are owned by individuals.
Okay.
You can own an aircraft without owning an airline. If you own an aircraft as an individual, you are at liberty to rent it out to any airline operator that you agree with in terms of fees and charges. And some individual owners do wet lease rental agreements. Wet lease means you give your aircraft crew insurance and what have you. Or you can do dry lease. You only give them the aircraft, they provide their crew maintenance and insurance and operate it. So you don't have to have aircraft in a particular country, and it's not a rule that once it's registered in the Gambia, can only operate from the Gambia. Okay. That's why this has never been a finding, like a violation on the part of Gambia Civil Aviation Authority or the Gambia as a state. And every time we are audited by international civil aviation organizations, and when they audit, they look for compliance with international standards and recommended practices. And when they come, some particular areas they look at is our aircraft registry and the air operator certificates we have issued and the air services license we have issued. And they look at these things to determine whether we have followed due process and we are in compliance with standards and recommended practices. And the Gambia have never been found wanting.
Has this flight violated any regulation within the country to warrant your intervention?
We have a Gambia Civil Aviation Act, which guides all the processes we do. And just at the top of my head to tell you that this is in total consonance with the Act, and it's in zero violation of the rules of the country.
Okay. Okay.
From the First Republic to now, the Gambia always had a registry. We had Nfansu Aviation. It's Egyptian owned, was registered in the Gambia, never operated in the Gambia. They did Hajj operations and other operations in the Middle East. During the Second Republic, we had ALOS. They operated in Afghanistan. But we had an opportunity to have some of our locally trained pilots fly for them, bill for their hours, and happy to report that today some of those pilots, as a result of that opportunity, are flying as captains for Air Senegal and their Gambians, trained by Civil Aviation. We had Badra Airline during the Second Republic, registered quite a few aircraft here, operating in Sudan. It's a Sudanese national. But at the time, Sudan was under sanctions because they didn't have a competent CAA to register and oversight the safety of these airlines. They chose the Gambia, but they operated in Sudan. Those aircrafts were never in the Gambia.
Okay. Okay.
We had Badra Airline, we had Taco Airline, also registered aircraft in the Gambia, but they operated in Sudan. We had Jupiter Airlines registered in the Gambia, but operated in South Sudan and Dubai, UAE. We had Supreme Airlines. These are on the Second Republic from 2012 to 2018. Registered quite a few aircraft here, but operating domestically in South Sudan and between South Sudan and Dubai. This republic, we have Magic Air, which has this particular aircraft. Magic Air was registered here in 2018. Because one of the requirements, according to our act, is before we register your aircraft, you must have a locally registered company. And that's where Magic Air comes from. But when we register as a state, our responsibility is safety oversight of the aircraft. In other words, we have to make sure it's airworthy before we issue an airworthiness certificate. We have to inspect, vet, and approve the maintenance facilities where you're going to take that aircraft for maintenance.
So the regulation is only limited to that, safety.
Well, exactly. That's your responsibility as a state. Where you operate and what you use the aircraft for, that's the responsibility of the owner. If you use it for an nefarious activity, then it's not the CA's responsibility. It's the authorities, it's the owner's responsibility.